Hey everybody, what is up? Toby Salgado here, and just want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by real estate radio experts and Corcoran Coaching. Now, we've been talking about radio for a while. This is the one thing that trumps any and all other marketing, advertising that you can do. When you get on the radio, you have instant credibility. You have instant trust in the marketplace, and you know what? You become a celebrity. When people call you, it's basically a come list me lead. That's it. They hear your commercial, they call you and say, come on over, sell my house. And then when you go there, they're going to go, hey, you know what? I can't believe it's you. I hear you on the radio. I can't believe you. So if you want to level up, if you want to add 100 transactions to your next 12 months, go to realestateradioexperts.com, fill out the getting started sheet, and let's chat. Let's get you going. And look, if you want to, again, level up, you need a coach. You do. Whether you're a celebrity, an athlete, whatever, anybody who's operating in the top 1% all have a coach. So I can tell you that I work with Corcoran Coaching, and I've never shared this, but Bob Corcoran is my personal coach. And that's hard to do. People like Tom Ferry or Mike Ferry or Bob Corcoran, to be a personal client of those guys. So when I say I endorse Corcoran Coaching, this is from boots on the ground, me and Bob and all those guys, Bubba out there talking. So, you know what? Because you are listening to the show, they'll give you a free coaching call. Just email Bubba at CorcoranCoaching.com and let me know how it goes. Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first million in real estate. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go! Yeah.
Now, look, today, I don't know if you guys know, but today's episode, we are really, really ahead, luckily. We are running, when I do an interview, it won't be aired for 3 or 4 months, and every day, every week, we're getting farther and farther booked out. So today's episode is a little bit different. I actually recorded this one today. And I'm airing it today. And I'm only doing that because he's doing a couple interesting things. Today's guest has a pretty successful real estate brokerage in Minnesota, in the Twin Cities. So he had a physical team, and they were doing about 127 deals a year. By all accounts, successful, right? Here's the deal. He had a physical, transaction coordinator, showing agent, regular team. He went away with them. He did away with them, and now he went all virtual. He's got 5 virtual assistants, and we talk about how he's transferred from a physical team to a virtual. And look, at the end of the day, he shared that his net bottom line is going up because of the decreased cost when it comes to running a virtual team. So that's one thing he's doing different. And the other thing this guy's doing different, again, he's got a successful business in Minnesota. Guess what he's doing? He's packing his bags, and heading out to compete in Beverly Hills. So we go over why he's making the move, number one. Number two, specifically what things he's going to do when he gets into a new market. Parachuting into a brand new market with no list is tough. So what is he going to do? And I think for everybody out there, whether you're doing 20 or 30 deals a year, I think it's helpful to know what people who are successful, what they are doing to go ahead and transport their business into another market. Because look, at the end of the day, a business like real estate or construction or most businesses, they are not portable, right? You're stuck to the geography where you live, and you can't transport it. And I got to tell you, that's the beauty thing of me doing this show and building out the radio arm of this is I want to be very deliberate about building a transportable company, transportable business. I did not want, I'm in San Diego. That's great. But what if I want to move to Colorado for the winter? I wanted to be able to do that. And whether that's Colorado or the south of France or wherever. So, look, I hope you love it. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get to it. Today's guest, man, there's a lot to dig in here. I met this guy, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and we started chatting, but I finally got him to come on the show, and there's a lot of stuff going on with this guy. Let me tell you a little bit. His team last year was 3 agents, 2 W-2 employees, a marketing coordinator, a transaction coordinator, a showing agent, and an open house, a host. Okay, that's what it looked like last year. This year, he's moved all virtual. He's got 5 virtual assistants. We're going to talk about that. And by shifting up his business in terms of headcount, he's making more money, net bottom line, as it is today. Okay. For what last year, what did he do with those with that team? He did 127 deals as a team. 49 of those he did himself. Total volume $28 million. Average sale $220. He's in Minnesota. I'm thrilled to welcome Erik Brown. Hey, Erik, thanks for taking the time out, man.
Thanks for having me, Toby.
All right. So look, I know you have a ton of stuff going on. You have this very successful business in Minnesota. Right now, you're leaving that all behind and you're moving to Beverly Hills. So there's a lot to cover, but before we get there, let's back up and tell us a little bit about yourself, Erik. Just give us a overview of who you are. I mean, I know you're an interesting guy.
Yeah, so my first house before I was ever an agent, I bought a home to renovate in South Minneapolis for about $50,000. It was a HUD house, and myself and a couple of college buddies stepped on nails and electrocuted ourselves and thought we were going to become millionaires rehabbing properties.
Right.
So we bought this house, we did a bunch of renovations to it, and when all was said and done, we made about $2 an hour for our efforts, but we got hooked. We realized that that was graduate school for us. And so we all ended up going kind of our separate ways into real estate, and with myself becoming an investor, a general contractor. I owned a small title insurance company. I had started a property management company that I sold in about 2004. And through all of those efforts, I had obtained a license to be able to represent myself. When the recession hit, I decided to go full bore into representing clientele. Probably not the best time to do it, but I worked out of my house. And I bought a bunch of internet leads, and I tried to work my sphere of influence. In my first year, I sold 8 houses. And I thought there's got to be an easier way to do this monster instead of me handling the hundreds of things that a typical agent does. So I looked at different brokerages, and I picked a good brokerage here in the Twin Cities area of Minneapolis and St. Paul, REmax Results. And then started immediately going into hiring staffing. I did not want to work like a traditional agent. I wanted to build a business. And so that brought me basically to where we are today.
Okay. So you got your start when you were in college?
Yeah, right outside of. I was a business major. Yep.
Okay. So you guys went and raised money. How'd you get that $50,000? Did you get a loan on that, or did you all cash?
So the 3 of us had pretty good paying jobs out of school, so we would work nights and weekends on this first house.
Okay. Man, I mean, okay. So, I mean, you were a general contractor, you had a title company, you have your fingers in all these different pies. What was, tell me the thinking around that. Was that just pure, you built and sold a property management company. Was that deliberate, or are you the kind of guy where you see an opportunity and you go, hey, look, let me just build something on top of that?
It was a little bit of both. My push, and not to make an ingracious plug for this particular author, but I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Sure.
And it was a baseline that set up kind of a philosophy of how to take jobs to learn, not take jobs to have a job. So each of those was a stepping stone into a next position to kind of up my career or business.
Okay, so let's, and I do want to talk about your move and all that stuff. So what was, you had a team, an actual team with physical people, and now you moved it to virtual, kind of online or in the cloud. Why, that's not something that we hear about typically. Typically somebody will have a VA and they use that VA to call expireds or FSBOs. Where did you come up with the model for being all virtual?
So I'm a numbers guy. I very much can create the personal side of our business, which is geared on customer service. but I love to build structure and systems that will allow the business to improve and not necessarily need me for every moment. I'm replaceable, and I wanted to build a business that would do that. And so I constantly tweak. I look at ways to improve and add services for my clients while still improving our bottom line. And so my past couple of years, I've been very heavy staffed trying to provide that service, but you have workers' comp and benefits and payroll taxes and time off, etc.
Yeah.
And all of that it takes away from your business. If you go virtual, which I've now been using on some level or another for 3 years, I find that all of those potential challenges wash away. You have a set fixed dollar figure that you can equate to results. And so I started by using virtual assistants strictly for prospecting and really drilled down to track our numbers. How many calls could be made in an hour? How many conversions could be made? How many prospects could be touched, etc. And then just continued to expand that role. It gets hard when you're self-employed and you're starting a business to let go of certain aspects. But the more I would let go, the freer that I was to do the big things like converting clients or inevitably growing the business.
Okay, are you modeling, with this being virtual, again, this kind of goes back to, did you stumble on it or were you deliberate? I mean, are you pioneering this method of being all virtual, or did you see this somewhere else?
No, I've seen other agents use this similar model. I don't think that they've gone as detailed as this has. I think that they still will maintain an office assistant or an internal administrator that is there and tangible, whereas I have not had that piece. Or I am switching and changing from that piece. So yes, I've looked at other agents nationally that have used something similar.
Okay, and again, it's interesting that I do think you're the most virtual guy we've had on the show. So you're a numbers guy, right? You look, your structures, systems kind of focused. How does the structure and systems change from having a virtual team or a physical team to a virtual team?
I have found that with a virtual team, it's a little bit more, the best analogy I can come up with is assembly line. My key assistant that I had with me for 6 years that is now transitioning into a virtual position. I have her position being replaced by virtual assistants. She was my right arm. She knew everything. There were things just ingrained in her internally because we could talk back and forth every day. So she, by extension, was a piece of my mind. She could do things that someone couldn't do intuitively. Mm-hmm. With a virtual assistant, there's more that you just have to create by process. Think of it like McDonald's or any other franchise. They're going to have structure and system on how you make a Big Mac. And we try and do the same things with the way that we do a transaction with a virtual assistant. There's a pecking order and a sequence with which the way that you manage a client. And then we can still step in as, let's just call it the master chef, as you're making this gourmet meal of a client's transaction, to still pepper in the extras that are needed.
And look, I have three virtual assistants. I have one I use as a research person. I have another that I use as an ISA to call and book people for this show. And then I have another one that is calling, trying to find people who want to grow their business with radio. Now, for me, because they are relatively cheap, I don't expect very much of them. And I don't communicate with them very often. They send me an email at the beginning or end of their day, and I communicate maybe once with them. How do you communicate? And so here's what I want to get at. Communication is a challenge because typically these VAs are on whole different time zones. A lot of times they're working in the middle of the night. So communication, and two, what system do you use, Erik, to sort of watch their work as it goes down that assembly line?
Great questions. So I made the early philosophy shift to treat my virtual assistants as if I would treat employees or people that are just in my life. So
Damn it.
Oh, are you there?
Yeah, you dropped. Okay, so I got to mark that 9:32 edit. Okay, so you said you made you made the conscious decision to treat your virtual assistants as if they were physical. That's where you dropped.
I do. So like I treat these virtual assistants as if they were employees or were here physically. So it's most of our conversations or training is done by email or Skype. So I have with my head VA. So for example, I had mentioned that I now have 4 virtual assistants that work on the prospecting side of our business. One of those people is a head. So she basically works as my head ISA that takes those higher-ended leads and does more conversions. I have a call with her for an hour to an hour and a half twice a week where we walk through, again, we have just a report that is a breakdown of scripts and challenges, our numbers so far for the week, what's looking to convert, what we need to do better. She's also bonused based on any activity that she can produce. So I have created an additional incentive. The second call during the week is a training that I do with the other 3 VAs and her included, where we walk through what they're doing through on more a grassroots level. So I'm still putting in my time, but that takes away from me having to do base level prospecting. I now have 4 bodies that are doing what I can't do.
And it's all just numbers, man. Just raw numbers. I mean, that's sales. So how? Tell me, okay, how did you find these people?
I Googled, and I spoke with other agents about what they were using.
So, are you using a service like My Outdesk or?
I am. So my head VA is with My Outdesk, and then I have another company that is more of a call-based company. So my head VA with My Outdesk manages the other company and their staff.
And what is that other company?
It's just an individual, also out of the Philippines. I don't even know if he has a company name.
Interesting. Okay. Now, I can tell you the way I hire a VA, but what is maybe, for people who want to, because look, I encourage everybody, go and get a VA, man, have them call your database, have them call into your farm. I mean, it's, you pay $9 an hour, if you go through a service, and I have one person, I don't use a service, I pay her $5 an hour. And they're extremely happy. What is the process that you use, Erik, to go through, hire someone?
It's slightly different than a typical interview, but not that much. So you have to include, if you're calling out of, I use the Philippines, so if you're calling out of the Philippines, bandwidth and computer access is pretty important. They have weather issues. They have hurricanes that we don't have that can knock out their ability to use the internet. So their bandwidth is pretty important. I look at things like educational background, experience level. My head VA has a telemarketing call center background, so she's very natural on the phone. She has some language training, so she doesn't have much of an accent, and sometimes that matters, sometimes it doesn't. She does not call out of a call center, so it doesn't sound like she's calling with all this noise in the background.
Yeah.
And I know how, me as a consumer, I hate that when I get a phone call. It's inherent. She also we've set up a phone number where it looks as if she's calling from my office. So even people that I know, based on her accent, her background, the training that we've done to help her with scripting and the way we've set up calls, they think she's part of the team.
Well, in which she is. She just happens to be in another country. Well, look, here's what I do. And this is, and I know you don't care about this, but the audience. So what I do, Erik, is if I'm looking for someone, a prospecting person, for example, I know what personality profile that I like. So I look for a high D, high I. Okay, so I run them through the DISC profile, and in addition to experience, I look at their personality. Is that a component for you at all, Erik?
It is. Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up. I have run them all through it.
Okay. So let's talk about numbers. Now, last year, the physical team did 127. How does it? Are you seeing a decrease in effectiveness by going all virtual?
No, not yet, but it's early. This has been a shift over the course of the past 4 months, so it's very much still in its test phase. But the numbers that I'm seeing that are coming in, as far as I look at a very standard pipeline, you take prospects to appointments to clients to closings to referrals. And the numbers that we have right now are off the charts compared to where we were last year.
Interesting. So early days, it looks like these people are just as, if not more effective than your physical team.
Correct.
Now, so you have 4 VAs that are all prospecting people. Now, 2 things. One is what. Well, I'll just we'll go through there. Sorry, buddy. Again, there's a lot of stuff I have in my notes, so I'm trying to figure out how to create this narrative to make your episode really good. What do you have them prospecting into?
So I have mapping calls similar to, I'm sure, Tiger Leads or Land Voice or RedX or Mojo. I use those services. We upload them into a dialer, and they will dial 400 or 500 dials per day. They'll have a 10% reach rate, so 40 to 50 reaches. Most of those are going to be hang-ups, but they have a very basic script, and we have a goal of them to convert 2 people per day. So if you have, again, one of those is a head ISA, so isn't doing the basic dialing. She is doing the follow-up dials. So the 3 people, that basically is, I'm looking at around 5 to 6 conversions a day. So over the course of a week, that's 25 to 30 conversions. That's potentially 120 in a month. That would be viable people interested in selling a home or know someone who would want to buy a home. And there is still a nurture period involved in that process. Generally, when we call someone cold, they're not ready immediately. So at that point, then they go on, I have a couple of other services. I have a mailable newsletter that goes out in the mail, and since we have a mapping list, we have their address already. As part of the script, we also ask for email addresses, and if we can get them there, we have them added onto a video blogging service that we use called Viral, and it's fantastic.
Yep. I know Frank out there. So now, when you say conversions, what does that mean to you?
So there's, again, different ratios. So from cold lead to converting to a prospect or a nurture, if you will, that's one type of conversion. Are you asking about percentage, or are you asking about type?
No, I think because when there's lots of ways to conversion could be call to appointment. Conversion could be conversion into a deal. So for you, conversion means simply finding someone who is interested in buying or selling real estate.
In this particular example, yes, but I do look at all conversion types.
Now, when how so? Do you, because there's conversion from cold lead to interested in real estate. Then there's conversion from interested to appointment, from appointment to listing to close. Do you track all those individual funnels and look at the percentages?
We have a rough idea in percentages, but we're using a main software that a lot of real estate agents know of as Top Producer.
Yep.
And we use the Top Producer pipeline funnel, which takes you from a new prospect to engaged to future to active. And we use active as client. So basically new is hot, a new lead. And engaged means we've had a conversation and they're having some level of interest, within the 6 to 12 month range, maybe longer. But if we've had a meaningful conversation, they go to engaged. If they're serious within the next couple of months, they move on to future, and that's where I and my agents will make their focus. We just spend time with the future. And usually we'll also have sphere and referral that are in the future. They're the warmest leads to convert. And then once they go from future, we have gotten them to sign up as a buyer or a seller with us, and they move on to active, which means they're a client.
Okay. So again, walk us through all those channels. So one is a map. So you have 4 VAs calling. Now, are they all calling mapping calls, or do you have one on the map, one database, one past clients? How do you break that up?
I've got 3 of them on the mapping calls, and then the head ISA is not only doing the higher level conversions of trying to get phone consultation appointments with me or my real estate agents. She'll also we use a pay-per-click search engine optimization service called Commissions Inc., which is a lead capture tool online. She will call those leads in conjunction with one of the agents on my team. That's his bread and butter, as one of his tools that he uses to obtain clients. And then the head ISA will also get 3 different types of sequences in a given month. She'll call on everyone who opens our e-newsletter. They get a phone call once a month. So she'll call through those with one script. She'll call through our database. I'll give her so many names and numbers to call with a script to call. And then she'll also call on anyone who has responded to either newsletters or magazines or print periodicals that we have.
Now, do you run into any licensing issues with with people as you move people through the funnel, right? From engaged to, at what point do you have to, you understand what I'm getting at, right? So you have non-licensed persons that at some point they're actually talking about real estate square footage and price. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so at the point that someone basically raises their hand and says that they're interested, we've tried, again, I as much as I can, I want to, because I understand how detailed this all sounds, I want to use the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. So when we get someone who's raised their hand as a prospect and said, I'm interested in the next step, we've narrowed it down to our assistants or our agents to ask 10 questions. We just have a simple 10 questions. I could ask 20, 30, 40, but we have 10 questions that ask, are you working with an agent? What is your time frame? What is your price range, or what is your home worth? Just 10 really important ones. And at that point, then it goes to an agent.
Okay. And obviously you have boots on the ground still. So, I mean, and I guess the reason even me saying that is because I do want to get into why you're leaving this, successful business. I mean, if somebody's has a business that they're doing, $28 million in volume, 127 deals, and you're a young guy, you're still growing, they wouldn't leave it. But yet you are picking up, going from Minnesota and moving to Beverly Hills. And before we get to that move and your reasons why and how you're going to manage it, is there anything more that you think that you should convey to the audience around this new kind of method that you're implementing?
Time blocking is extremely important. Now my day has shifted. Instead of just doing traditional real estate of making my prospecting calls at a certain time and trying to convert clients and running a regular work week where I'm doing showings nights and weekends, I've set it up more like a business. So now I'm more responsible to time block my time to manage people and help them be successful. So although I'm not making as many prospecting calls, now all my calls are just the hot people, or they're getting passed to the agents. So I'm only dealing with the highest of level instead of me having to make the initial call of someone who came off a sign or came in as an internet lead. It's a mentality shift.
Okay, so tell us about how do you block your day or a week?
So I created what I refer to as my perfect week. So I have if I was to give you a typical day, it will start with returning phone calls and making high-level prospecting calls in the morning. I don't care about the time. I don't care if most people, I would think, don't pick up between 8:30 and 9:30 my time, if it's better to call at a later time. I just know that if I don't do it in the beginning, I'll get caught up in my day and I might not do it at all. So I'll make all of my prospecting calls in the morning. Then I will have a quick 15 to 30-minute powwow with my staff. Now, this powwow is now on the phone or on Skype with my virtual staff. And we'll walk through those reports. And there's a little bit of chit-chat, but not a lot. We really try and pack in as much as we can in that 15 to 30 minutes. Again, on every twice a week, we do have a longer meeting that we can go over more training. But this is just a touch base. I do that same thing with my transaction coordinator and my onboarding coordinator. So those two meetings will happen a couple of times a week as well. So there's structure to running that business model. Then the midday is handling all of the minutia that just pops up whenever you run a business. So handling a client issue, bringing on a new prospect, the things that don't fall into a task. And then if I'm still running appointments, either helping my agents or taking them myself, I always try and block those off at the same time near the end of the day. Now, granted, you might get a really big buyer or seller that makes you adjust your schedule a little bit, and I'll do that from time to time. But 80 to 90% of the time, I'm falling within my time blocking. Now, in the beginning, you'll lose a client or two, or you'll lose a prospect or two because they don't fit within your schedule. But I was okay with that, and I have found that it has exponentially improved my business to be respectful of my schedule. People will respect you, they'll treat you like a professional, and you'll find that not only are you more efficient, but you have more time.
I 100% agree, man. And look, for your virtual people, one thing that I do is I encourage them to talk with one another, right? So our research girl, I say, hey, listen, for my ISAs that are calling into, let's say, for booking guests, if they need something, I let them I don't delegate everything. I allow them to work as a team. Do you also do that, or do you keep it very compartmentalized?
No, I don't micromanage. We create basically a structure of success. So we're results-based. We teach a format on how to do that, but we allow creative license.
Okay. Now, you for those, you earlier mentioned that everybody has an auto dialer. How did you manage that? How do you get that to the Philippines?
I use Mojo, which is computer-based.
I didn't. You know, it's finding to get those guys on the show. I did not know that was. That's interesting, man. I'm going to put that on my note today. Mojo. Yeah. So
it's a great service and very cost-effective.
I will tell you, in a 4-hour shift, my people, I don't think it's enough, but they're only calling about between 30 and 40 people. And even if, and I get I get a report at the end of the day, but even if those are all just voicemails, they're still only getting 30 to 40 people. Is that really low? I mean, what am I doing wrong,
Yes.
Erik?
It is. So let me give a plug for Mojo. I wish I could get something for this, but they're a great service. So Mojo is has the ability to be a triple dialer. So I can upload through an Excel spreadsheet. I can import, let's just call it 100 names, numbers, notes, source, time frame, property address, email address. You just upload it based on the fact that it's an Excel file. Once you upload those 100 names, then Mojo will ask a series of questions of how I want it sequenced. What I mean by that is, what number am I dialing out from? What voicemail am I automatically leaving? So I will call in the Mojo service and leave an automated voicemail that the 100 people that I upload, they're generally all of the same sequence. They're all Commissions Inc. leads, or they're all open house leads. So I know that the script is basically the same. And the voicemail that I leave, I don't say their name, and I might not say something personalized, but I'm basically using the same script for an open house. From there, once I hit the dial session, it triple dials at once. And if it picks up on someone, the other two automatically go to voicemail, and I have a conversation with one person. If two people pick up on the same time, it gets a voicemail that says, "Oh, sorry, just picked up the phone. Erik will call you right back." And then when I hang up with the conversation I have, it auto-dials that person back. So generally that service, depending on if you use the custom feature or you use the standard feature, you can dial anywhere between 50 and 100 calls per hour. And that includes still having a good reach rate. So I recently tested this just to make sure I was tracking my callers' timelines. I called 35 people in 46 minutes, and I had 11 reaches and 4 or 5, I don't remember, meaningful conversations. And by that, 5 to 10 minutes at a time.
Erik.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. Yeah, you dropped there for a second. Okay. So you were talking about your reach. Now, let me ask you this. So the auto dialer is smart enough. You put in your, "Hey, this is Erik. Sorry, I didn't miss you, but I wanted to touch base." Whatever it is. Could you upload 300, 400, 500 phone numbers and just let Mojo run and just leave all those people those voicemails and you not even man the thing?
I haven't looked into it. I haven't not looked into that process because we're trying to have a conversation and push people down the sequence.
Yeah.
But yes, that's possible. Then you could just be inboarding return calls.
Right.
If there's a service that allows for that, but I haven't looked into it.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that if you've looked at Salgado, do you know Salgado?
I'm not familiar.
So Salgado is basically, it only works on mobile phones, but you can do exactly what I just said, right? So you leave a message, you record a message, upload names into Salgado. It's like, 100 names for like $10, and it automatically drops your voicemail into everybody's mailbox. But it does not ring. It only works on mobile because it will not ring the person's cell phone. However, it will leave a voicemail. So
that's great.
Every now and again, I'll use that for high level people and say, "Hey, look, it's Toby. Your market's open with radio. Let's chat." And so when the people that call me back, those are the people I want to talk to. So I'll look at Mojo. That'd be interesting if I could do that, or someone could do that at Mojo. Now, So again, what's up with this move, man? You know, you have the successful business in Minnesota, and you're picking up and going to the jungles of Beverly Hills, buddy. What's up?
That's right. Well, so I guess to wax a little personal, I'm not married. I don't have kids. I enjoy the business that I'm in. I've got some big goals around it and where I want to take it to, and what it will allow me to do in kind of a greater give back. And some of that is related to the number side of our business. And so I realized that the Los Angeles market is quite a higher price point than what the Minneapolis market is. And I think that my structure is very replicable. I did about a year's worth of research in looking at their market and finding out how the agents work and what it would take to be successful. And though there's some tweaks between the marketplaces, it won't be that different in what I'm doing here.
Yeah, but I mean, I think again, I mean, you can look at a business from straight numbers, and you know, and I see how for you can make that argument. You know, it's pretty much the same. But I would also say, you know, LA is a whole different animal, man. You know, I mean, I'm in San Diego. I've lived in LA before, and even, you know, the culture, even from San Diego, it's very different. You know, you're going to parachute into LA with no list. You know, and everybody wants to sell Beverly Hills property. I mean, what challenges do you think? How are you going to parachute in there with no list and hope to make a dent?
Yeah, so I think I'll take a lot of the tools that I have as far as prospecting. And you touch on another point of just the lifestyle difference, which is going to be an animal in and of itself. Mm-hmm. But I'm excited about the adventure of it. That piece is intriguing to me. And I like a new challenge. I'm excited about a new challenge. I've seen other agents as well that have multiple offices in multiple states, and they make a very good go of it. And I've always wanted to leave a different mark, and this will give me an opportunity to at least sample that. And I don't know if that directly answered your question. That at least gave my rationale.
Huh. No, well, here's what I want to get at is, I mean, tell us specifically. I mean, you spent a year researching it. I mean, specifically, I mean, what are the first things that okay. We're recording right now in the early part of March 2015. Now, I'm not sure when this will go live. I may make this sooner rather than later, but when are you going to get into LA?
April.
Next month. Okay, 30 days from now or so, you're going to be in LA. What are the first things that you're going to do?
I set up my prospecting. I'm going to treat the pipeline exactly the same. So I need to immediately have prospects that convert to appointments and then clients. And so what I'll do is all the same tools that I'm using here in Minnesota are replicable in California.
Well, okay, but look, so I hear you prospecting, but I would say this. So, you know, in many parts of the nation, expireds and FSBOs are reasonable channels. San Diego, you're not going to find an expired. Beverly Hills, I mean, that channel's not going to work. FSBO's kind of the same thing. So are you going to identify with RedX or LandVoice a farm, and then start to call into that? Again, you have 3 people map-based calling right now.
Correct. Yes, that will be one piece. I'll have the ability to do basic grassroots level marketing. I will be able to, the brokerage that I picked, which is Telus Properties, has a very good networking system of being able to use the brokerage's listings as a way to market yourself as an agent. So I'll be able to leverage the Telus brand into not only that farm area, but also I will still use the pay-per-click search engine optimization tool of Commissions Inc. In that marketplace. And then I have just the basics of the more people you know. At one point I had listened, Toby, to one of your radio shows where you had talked about an agent that set the goal of handing out 25 business cards a day. And within his first year, by the end of it, he was doing 9, 10, 11 deals a month. So there's many different ways to skin a cat, and I'll probably do a blend of several of those methods.
Okay, well, so with choosing a farm, I mean, a lot of people, we talk about that a lot on the show, but I get so many emails with people going, just how do I do that? So how are you going to do that? What thresholds, components, what are you looking for in that farm?
So price point is one.
Okay. Hold on, Erik. And what are you going to shoot for? Are you going to go after $1 million houses, million plus?
Yeah, I want to say that the inner LA market is somewhere, and don't quote me on this because it depends per community, but it's going to shoot somewhere between 800 and 1.1 million.
Okay.
That's kind of your average basic house. They start to get more luxury pricing once you hit 3-4 million plus.
Yep.
Condos will be 700,000-800,000. So that'll be the price that I shoot for as a starting point, and then I can leverage up. I have luxury properties here in the Twin Cities that at least are somewhat close in mirroring those price points. So I'll be able to leverage my experience by saying I'm a Minnesota broker as well. But I'll look at price point.
Okay.
I will look at, for lack of a better way to phrase it, turnability of a neighborhood. How often do homes turn over? If you have 1,000 homes, your 10 homes sell a year. Well, that's not a very good turn rate. So I'll look at that piece.
And what are you shooting for in that turn?
It seems like somewhere in the 5 to 10% range. 10% is phenomenal.
Yep.
5% is closer to normal.
Yep. Okay.
So I'll be looking at that range, and then it just depends on how big of a farm I want to create. Accessibility is important. So there's pockets that are underserved in the Los Angeles market, but they're in the hills. And trying to work a farm area of the hills, the homes are just further apart. So you have to think of the logistics.
Yep.
And then obviously competition. If you have a couple of agents that dominate a marketplace, you really have to recognize what it is that they're doing and how you would either come in and be able to take market share and or just not compete in that farm.
Yeah, and I will say that this is for everybody, if you are looking at a farm and you see one guy, right, one or girl that fundamentally has most of the listings, that's a farm I would not be afraid of, because many times if those people who, if they have a farm and they dominate it, they're lazy, right? They start to slack off, on marketing. They feel too comfortable. So I think that could be a positive rather than negative. How are you going to, I think especially in a place like Los Angeles or Beverly Hills, even Orange County, right? LA is this a kind of market where, relationships are important. What are your thoughts in building relationships with other brokers and agents, and how are you going to use that?
I'm going to use, thank you for asking that question, because I'm going to use some of the same tools that I have now to basically develop vendored relationships. So not only with other brokers, but with other potential referral partners. So as I had stated earlier in the call, I have a newsletter, I have a video blog, I have callers that can basically help me expand myself and make relationships by setting appointments with people, setting lunches, going to broker opens, scheduling happy hours, and just leveraging my time that much better. And I'll look to convert that not only into relationships with other agents and brokers, but also relationships with home inspectors and escrow officers and photographers and stagers and loan officers. And those people, as you build that relationship, will potentially become partners.
And so what for you, Erik, what, again, you're a numbers guy. What kind of marketing budget are you looking at rolling out with to penetrate a place like Beverly Hills?
That's a great question. So I had planned on, for my first 6 months, this is a lot or a little depending on who you're asking, but I have a $30,000 budget that doesn't include grassroots. That's just hard cost, hard fixture.
Okay. Now, and one of the things you said, you're gonna be heavy prospecting, which I think is great. And you also said, you're gonna rely on, or one of your legs will be Commissions Inc. and the pay-per-click. Now, here's what I want to ask is, you have this $30,000 budget, number one. Number two, all leads are not created equal, right? So your Google pay-per-click or online on the buyer side, they're low quality, long sales cycle. Whereas, if you're prospecting in from your list, if you had one, for example, right? I mean, those are higher quality and faster performing. How do you envision mixing your funnel with now deals as well? Because we're moving into the spring, right? So again, managing and mixing your funnel with current right now deals as well as with deals or transactions or leads that will convert, 12, 18 months from now.
That's just staffing and time management. It's just making sure that you block those out well enough and you leave the appropriate amount of time for each sequence.
And here's what I'm trying to get at is do you have a vision for saying, okay, listen, I want to a percentage, I guess. I need 20% of my calls should be focused on the now deals, whereas 40% of my team's efforts will be to front load the pipeline for next April.
No, I haven't taken it that far. There's whenever you do a big move like this, there's a lot of moving pieces, and that's one that I haven't gotten that level of detail on.
Okay. And look, I mean, so what do your first year in real estate, you sold 8 houses. What, and now, look, I mean, you have a deep background in this, right? You've been successful. What do you think you will do in the next 12 months from April, once you get into LA, just from the LA market?
Yeah, so just from the LA market, I'm looking at a 12-month run. So if I was to go year over year, so if we're having the same conversation next March or April, in that time frame, I'd like to have 25 to 30 closings. Okay,
that's reasonable. And by the way, I think we should bring you on next April and talk about what unforeseen challenges you came up against. And speaking of challenges, I mean, what do you think? What do you think your biggest challenges are going to be as you try to penetrate a Beverly Hills?
Lack of market knowledge by far will be the biggest one. So I know the system, I know the sequence, I know how to convert, I know how to run the process and run the structure. When someone starts to ask me about streets and neighborhoods or events or local bars or restaurants, that becomes a more difficult conversation. So the way that I'll be combating that is very quickly finding either referral partner agents and or teammates. So I do that structure here now. It takes me away from the front lines and puts me more in managing the process, which is really my strength and skill set.
Okay. I would imagine finding, adding somebody to your team that, that's lived there, in LA, their whole lives or whatever. I mean, I think that is the one way to hack it. So in terms of identifying your farm, we looked at turn rate, we looked at price point. Size. What do you think the ideal size to kick off? What are you thinking on that?
In a farm market, probably in the 500 to 1,000 range.
Now, will you you have this virtual kind of hands-off team in Minnesota. Are you going to get? Are you going to start knocking on doors? I mean, are you going to boots on the ground to really learn about the streets and meet people belly to belly?
My belly-to-belly was going to be a combination of going to Tuesday caravans, which is basically broker opens,
yep.
And there's hundreds and hundreds of homes to be able to see. And I'll do that, basically look at somewhere between a half dozen and a dozen homes every Tuesday, which will start to get me familiar with streets and neighborhoods. And then just living, I will try different places. I'll go to different restaurants. I'll do different events. I'll still be somewhat of a sightseer. It'll be a newer place for me. But the more of the grassroots, the door knocking, the handshaking, I had somewhat envisioned. I am philanthropic here in Minnesota, so I was at one point involved in Rotary. I was involved with Feed My Starving Children. I did some work with the Humane Society, and so I have some connections to make relationships there as well. And so those will be a natural feeder system and getting familiar with the city.
Got it. Okay. Now, look, and again, you are a numbers guy. I mean, even on this, this interview, and we've talked on the phone before, but you were very crisp, boom, boom, boom. Do you and LA is very, very loose, right? And this comes back to culture. Do you think that you and your personality, everybody's high I there, right? Do you think that is going to be a challenge for you?
I don't. When you're in sales, you learn how to be effective. You learn how to be able to work a model well. And just because I have a different personality type doesn't mean that I can't necessarily make the type of connection with a different business model. And to be honest, that's the exciting part of the challenge, is see if, I'm up to the task.
You will be. Okay, well, look, we have to start wrapping up, and before we get off, Beverly Hills or what you're doing in Minnesota. Here's the crazy question that you've heard me ask before, right? What's the thing I didn't ask you that I should have asked you, Erik?
Yeah, it's for me. And I don't know if other people have experienced this when they hit this age or as you're coming into this age, but I'm going to be 40 this year.
Oh, wow.
And so the questions now that I'm starting to ask that I didn't ask in my 20s or my early 30s is the big why. Like, why do we do what it is that we do? And not to wax overly philosophical, but purpose has become such a bigger question for me. And in the beginning of my career, I got into real estate because I really loved the art of the deal, and I loved the thought of playing with bigger numbers. I competed in sports in high school and college, and that was my competitive outlet. Well, I'm not a professional athlete, so my way to compete now is to compete against myself. Basically see, can I do better than I did the year before? And the way that I equated that was through numbers. So instead of running a faster 40-yard dash, now it's, can I sell more homes? And so that has been my purpose earlier in life. And now, as I'm nearing, what hopefully is not middle age, but as would be middle age, I'm starting to question that of what is the purpose. And so for me, that is shifting to how do I create a better experience for my clients? How do I give them purpose in the American dream? How do I give a greater give back with my business? So that's been a very interesting shift to see. And I see this path, this journey in going into a different market as part of the way to develop more of those answers.
So, I mean, do you think, I think that's a great point of saying, okay, what is your why? Why do you get out of bed in the morning, and, what's going to get you through those really tough days? Do you think that's deep enough, Erik? I mean, do you think that's big enough? Just saying, hey, I want to provide a better experience for my customers.
I suppose that's part of the big question. That's where I'm leaning on now. But I can't say that I have all the answers, but I'll keep seeking.
Yeah, well, and I guess what I was getting at is, your all the philanthropic stuff that you've done, whether that's the SPCA or feed my hungry kids and all that stuff. Okay, well, look, we're going to wrap up with the same three questions I always ask everybody, and the first one I'm intrigued with you is, look, as your professional and personal journey has progressed to this point, who has been a mentor to you?
Oh, there's been a lot. There's been many. I almost want to break it down in different sequences of my life.
Yeah.
From coaches, like athletic coaches. I ran track and field, so my track coaches have been great. And it's never been directly related to one thing. It's always been more life related. There was a broker, the former owner of RE Results, that's very inspirational. And then people that you just come into day to day, it's surprising the mark that they can leave on you. But I would say if I had to narrow it down to one answer, I would say my parents. My parents are the sage advice that they give in the method with which they do it is pretty inspirational because it doesn't come across that way. It's generally a little bit more passive, and I have to read between the lines to see it.
Now, in terms of mentorship, look, and let me ask you this. Do you currently have a coach?
I've had several different coaches. I don't currently have one. Okay.
In terms of finding a mentor in LA, what are your thoughts around that?
So I've actually got a couple through TELUS. TELUS has a couple of excellent resources. Their ownership group is very diverse and just rock solid people. Like not only people that I would want to do business with, but people that I would want to spend time with. Yeah. Just good quality people. And so there's a couple of really successful agents that I have been able to bounce ideas off of. And then the ownership group and the office administrative staff has been fantastic.
Yeah, and we both know, Sharon Stravatza out there, and he's such a great guy, man. He's many times, he's in Orange County. Many times he's been like, hey, Toby, I'll drive down to San Diego. Let's hang out. And I need to take him up on that. I just haven't done it. That's bad on me. Well, look,
he's awesome.
Yeah, he's a great guy. So as you know, we always ask for book recommendations. So what for you, man? You're a numbers guy. You researched LA for a year. What kind of stuff do you read? Right? Here's the setup. Right? I'm an aspiring agent. I have $25. What book do I go buy today?
Oh, that's a great question. So my two books that I have currently either finishing or have finished One was called Power Connectors. I apologize for not remembering the author, but it takes us from the reason that was so important to me is we're in a media-based society with social media now where you can always be plugged in, and there's always someone to connect with, from Facebook to Twitter to phone calls to text messages to people that you know. There's always someone. Well, how do you sort out what's most important in your given day, how to make the most important connections for you? And that doesn't have to be business. It can be personal too. But how do you sequence those, basically? So Power Connectors was a book that helps basically break it down into your top, what they call, I think it's 5, 50, and 100, or 10, 50, and 100.
No, it's 5, 50, 100.
Okay, thanks. Yep. So that was a book that I just finished, and I thought it was extremely helpful because it helped kind of sort in my mind of how to prioritize. And then another one along similar vein is Gary Keller, the founder of Keller Williams, wrote a book called The One Thing. And The One Thing basically talks about the similar concept of, instead of just sorting people, what's the one important thing for fill in the blank. So what's the one important thing that I should do today to meet whatever goal it is that you're trying to accomplish? Or the one thing that I should do for the week, or the month, or the year.
Yep. Yeah. And by the way, man, I listened to, I was on a plane a couple of weeks ago, and I listened to The One Thing. It started off really slow, and I was like, this blows, man. This is not a good book. And then once, I don't know, a little bit more than halfway into it, I was like, this is great. So listen, everybody, if you haven't read The One Thing or listened to it on Audible, or the book that Erik's talking about, it's the title is How to Be a Power Connector, the 5, 50, 100 Rule by Judy Robinette. If you haven't read either one of those books, get a free copy on us. Just use our link, audibletrial.com/superagentslive. And by the way, I'm going to get that How to Be a Power Connector. I'm going to get it on Audible today. So thanks, Erik. Look, Erik, here's the one that I always end up with, and it's about a personal habit. Do you have a personal habit that you feel has contributed to your success?
I do, and not for this to sound overly cheesy, but and this was a learned activity. It didn't necessarily come naturally. But each day when you wake up, you have a choice, and you have a choice on how you want to make that day. And again, as I mentioned earlier, to keep it simple, it can be a good day or it can be a bad day, no matter what is happening in your life. And everyone has their own set of challenges or circumstances that they're working with. I wake up each day and choose to make it a good day. And most days that works out quite well.
So, and look, I've played with, and by the way, have you read The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod?
I'm familiar with it. I haven't read it.
You should get it. It's an easy read, and it really goes over your morning ritual. I've tried to start off my day with gratitude, and it's amazing that actually helps. How, when you woke up this morning, Erik, how, like mechanically, what did you do to say, you know what, I'm going to make this a great day? How do you get yourself in that mindset?
Yeah, so again, I have a routine. Not everybody can work off a routine, and I don't want to make myself sound like a robot, but I wake up, I grab a glass of water, and as I'm going through my morning routine, I have 10 affirmations that actually are posted right next to my mirror in my restroom. So as I'm brushing my teeth, I look over those affirmations. And there's also goals there. There's some things that I want to do. And they constantly put me in the mind frame of that one thing. What's the one or two things that I want to do that day that will help me meet these things to lead the life that I want to live? It's real easy to get distracted in the days and ages that we have today, and so I keep myself grounded that way.
Got it. All right, man. Well, look, this has been good. And normally we're about 3 or 4 months ahead. So normally this wouldn't air till the summertime, but I think I'm going to put it out. I'm going to put it out today, dude. That's how good I think it was. I think it was interesting for people to hear this notion of, how to run a virtual business. So look, here's the thing, Erik. I always encourage everybody, if they've gotten anything out of this episode, to reach out and say thank you. So, where can people find you?
Whatever your preference between email or phone number. My email address I can give it to you now if you like.
Sure.
It's Erik, ERIK, at themidcoastgroup.com.
Got it. Okay, man. And look, I'll kick off the thank you train. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you coming on the show. And I do want to let's reconnect next March. I want to see how your intro into LA or Beverly Hills went, what challenges you experienced, and how you overcame them.
Sounds fantastic. Always appreciate the time, Toby.
You got it, bud. Let's keep in touch.
Bye-bye.
Let's go.